Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are searching for possible betting value for the upcoming MLB card for Friday, August 21st. And we are talking with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Joe Duffy, everyone knows who your history. You're a legendary figure in the sports handicapping world. But as far as winning picks are concerned, how's 2015 been for you in baseball?
It's been fantastic, and the second half started out streaky, but luckily there were more winning streaks than losing streaks, but we settled down back to the point where we're at our very meticulous and clinical winning, and it's been one of our better years, but, we set the bar so high, I can't even say it's one of my best years, but it's better than 98% of handicappers will ever have.
All right, that sounds great, Joe. Well, I basically bring up Justin Verlander every time he starts, and I'll bring him up again here. He's just 1-5 on the year, but 7 shutout innings in his last start at Houston. Not too bad since the All-Star break. His last 5 starts have been pretty good. He had one where he got hit a little bit, but 4 good ones. I don't know. Maybe I'm coming around to Justin Verlander. I'm not sure that I want to bet Detroit here because, Colby Lewis on the other side is okay. He always gives up a few, but usually doesn't get crushed, especially on the road. But as far as I'm concerned, Verlander's not an auto fan anymore, right, Joe?
Well, Colby Lewis has been as well supported as any pitcher in baseball. Maybe, before this video is out, we'll talk about Shelby Miller, the other extreme, where Shelby Miller is pitched a lot better, but Colby Lewis is getting all kinds of run support. Still, Verlander's the better pitcher, but again, this is a guy who the last couple years he's been injured and he's not necessarily one of the best pitchers in the game. I still expect a little bit of inconsistency. We talk about Jeff Samardzija in quite a few of the videos. It looked like Samardzija was back after he had a 9-game stretch in which he was pitching well. Then he's gotten slapped around. So I'm a little bit worried about Verlander, and, like it's a couple years ago, Tim Lincecum, another example of once great pitchers who look great for 5 to 6, 7, 8 games. I'm still not completely sold on Verlander, but at this point, he's tough to go against, I would say.
And then it feels like Wei-Yin Chen's going to be another lean for me. He hasn't really been lights out recently. A few starts recently that were, a little bit less solid than he was doing before that. But his most recent starts have been better. And most importantly, Baltimore just kind of wins when he starts. They're 15-8 in his starts this year. They're 10-3 in his last 13, and they're 6-1 in his last 7 home starts. And on the other side, Minnesota, not a team that's fearsome to bet against. Tommy Milone is a little bit of an enigma. He can sometimes be very good and give those 7 innings, 1 or 0 run starts. But, he also can be shaky. And just in general, Chen seems pretty reliable. Seems like another lean for Baltimore would be warranted here, right?
Well, it's funny. We don't actually discuss these videos or rehearse them, and I'm sure someone's going to make a smart aleck comment in the comment section that it shows that we don't rehearse them. But I had in my notes here, Peter's definitely going to mention Chen, and you did. But conversely, Tommy Milone, he does own a 1.73 ERA and 4 career starts against the Orioles. You're right. Chen would seemingly be the better pitcher at this point, but considering that the Orioles don't seem to match up all that well against Milone, maybe this would be an opportunity to bet the under.
Okay, interesting. And then Madison Bumgarner he's really stepping it up, right? Since the All-Star break, he had 1 start where he got hit at Texas, but 5 other starts since the All-Star break have been absolutely lights out, 1 or 0 runs in each start. And, his strikeouts are starting to get through the roof. He's starting to give those starts where he strikes out 14, walks no one, and gives up 0 or 1 runs pretty consistently. And then Jeff Locke on the other side is a guy who I've sort of circled as, a guy you can rely on to give up 3 or 4 runs every start. His last start was a little bit better at the Mets, but, in general, I see him as a guy you can pencil in 3 or 4 runs with. And Bumgarner, the way he's pitching now, if you pencil in 0 or 1 runs for him, 3 or 4 runs from Locke, then San Francisco might be a great bet, even as a sizable road favorite. What do you think?
Well, Bumgarner, he has that ability to turn it on. Look, he's a big game pitcher. This would qualify, as a pretty big game for August is concerned. They're playing on the road against a definite contender. But Jeff Locke, one thing he seems to be a lock is that he's going to be much better at home than he is on the road. He doesn't have the single most compelling splits in baseball, perhaps. We've talked about some other pitchers who do, but 316 and 13 home starts, but compared to 6.02 on the road. So this is another game where maybe we'd we'd look at the under. If this game were being played at AT&T Park, I think that's the one in San Francisco. It's tough to keep track of which sponsors are, which parks are named after which sponsors. If this game were in San Francisco, maybe I'd say that San Fran had a humongous pitching advantage. But the fact that Locke has been pretty solid at home, I think it's a pretty good pitching matchup, and the under might be the play here.
All right, and then for anyone looking at Johnny Cueto, start in and start out, he's been dealing. Give him credit. The arm issues that he had in the middle part of the season seem to be completely cured. Here he's going to be at Fenway, though. It could be a bit of a different story, not the easiest assignment. On the other side, this guy Henry Owens, he's a highly touted guy, but he does have control issues at times. In his first start at Fenway, gave up 3 home runs. We know that Kansas City has been the most profitable team in baseball to date. Their ROI is near 20% on the year. That's number 1 in the ROI standings. But with Cueto starting, are they is that the time when they might be overvalued?
I do think, yeah. In the case of Owens, as you said, he's a nice young pitcher. He actually does have a pretty good strikeout to walk ratio, 17-6. In his last start, he maybe dodged. He did a little bit of bending, don't break. He did scatter 10 hits. And, when you're talking about a young pitcher, I get a little bit nervous about his ability to keep doing that, to keep getting those ground balls when he needs it. And as you said, look, Cueto, I did expect that he would have maybe a very short 1 or 2 game bump in the road. I always say when these stud pitchers switch teams, occasionally they're good go against for 1 or 2 starts. But look, Cueto is clearly one of the top pitchers in baseball. He's settled in. He does have the pitching advantage here for sure.
All right, so you in general expect another reasonably good start for Cueto, not necessarily lights out, but generally pretty good.
I would say so. And look, I'll admit that I probably overrated the Red Sox earlier this year. He's not really facing all that good of a team. I think he'll have a very good start.
All right, well, as of right now, I'm still feeling out the Friday, August 21st card. I think my only 2 clear leans, though, are going to be Baltimore and San Francisco, even though San Francisco is kind of an obvious play and they will be a big road favorite. What else would you like to bring to our attention, Joe?
There's great, Shelby Miller, we talked about it. He's pitched pretty well, but they just do not score for him. Maybe the unluckiest pitcher that I can think of in a long time. He's going 16 starts without a personal win. The last start summed up his whole year. He had a no-hitter heading into the 8th inning. And they won, but he wasn't involved in the decision. They went in the extra innings, but he's got a 3.03 ERA during a 16-game span. You think you have a few personal wins along the way, but he does not. And Carlos Carrasco, he's done pretty well. His last 6, 2.51 ERA, a 163 opponent's batting average against, and a guy that you like to talk about a lot, Ruby De La Rosa.
Yeah.
So you did not bring him up. He's been pitching well. 4-0 in his decisions and a 2.54 ERA in his last 6 outings.
Yeah, that's one game I was wondering about because David Holmberg on the other side definitely seems shaky and has control issues. And I'm just wondering if De La Rosa's recent success was a little bit of a mirage, or if he. I did read some stuff on Fangraphs, I think, that said that if he abandoned one of his pitches, he'd have overall a lot better results. Maybe he read that. Do you expect De La Rosa to continue to be pretty good as he has been recently, a little bit better than he was when he was more prone to getting hit?
And not only that, but when guys make adjustments, I always say that sometimes it may be because of the adjustments. In other cases, so the old 90% of the game is half mental, that they think that was the reason they're struggling, and then they do wind up pitching better because I think pitching, as much as just about any position, certainly in baseball, and just about any position in sports, maybe, a goalie in hockey or a kicker in football, sometimes the mental aspect is very big, but he does seem to have made some good adjustments, so I would look for that to continue.
Joe Duffy's website is offshoreinsiders.com. Thanks, Joe.